Good evening, my luscious viewers, and welcome to the Blair Scares horror show, where I, Blair Scares, promise to always be your favorite dream and your worst nightmare. I hope you're ready to be lured into a tantalizing world of horror and amusement. I can't wait. And if the name Michael Myers gives you cold chills in places you didn't even know you could get them, well, you might want to keep watching. Tonight we indulge in the wicked pleasure of beginning the journey of exploring my favorite horror films of all time. These sinful masterpieces have aroused our senses, leaving us breathless at times and always craving for more. These films are so incredible because of the people who, of course, acted in them, but also the people who created them, whether they wrote, produced, or directed the film. And in my opinion, these people that we'll be talking about are some of the most gifted filmmakers in any genre of film. From Wes Craven to Alfred Hitchcock, from Eli Roth to John Carpenter, these geniuses of horror have taken us all on a joyride to hell and back, and we have loved every minute of it. Join me on this deliciously wicked journey as we celebrate horror at its best and the fascinating minds behind it all. So, are you prepared to be seduced, thrilled, and entertained? I hope so. I'm here to ignite your darkest fears, maybe some desires, maybe even tickle your funny bone just a little, and celebrate the irresistibly incredible and fascinating genre of film that is horror. This journey will begin with the classic horror series Halloween, the Cadillac of all slasher films, and explore the genius behind the original film made in 1978. And then we'll jump 40 years ahead to the Halloween trilogy that began in 2018 with a sequel that no one was expecting, but everyone needed. One of the geniuses behind this trilogy is the legendary DannyMcbride. There are a few others in the mix who work side by side with him, like director Davidgordongreen. But since I'm a huge Danny fan, I want to talk about him for just a minute. This man, this legend. I love him. If you know him, you love him too. And whether you are a man or a woman, we are all in love with him. And none of us can really explain why. Hey Danny, call me. His Halloween trilogy, well, at least the last two, was preceded by a television trilogy that Danny himself describes as a misunderstood, angry man trilogy with his shows Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, and my personal favorite, The Righteous Gemstones. It's funny because I was thinking the Halloween trilogy could also be considered a misunderstood angry man trilogy. Michael, you're so sexy even when you're angry. Anyway, whether it's horror or not, Danny brings a horror-esque feel to everything he creates. I've watched all 3 seasons of The Righteous Gemstones, and the way a lot of the scenes are set up can be right out of a horror movie. There's blood, guts, and gore in every season, and the music pairs perfectly with all of the scary aspects of the show. As soon as I found out that Danny helped create the newest Halloween movies, as well as creating and acting in Gemstones, I wasn't surprised. So, let's talk about these last 3 Halloween movies. But wait, if you're a true Halloween fan, you know I can't talk about this trilogy without talking about the original, John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978, featuring Jamieleecurtis as Laurie Strode. This movie is a classic and is in my top horror films of all time. The iconic floating POV using the infamous Panaglide camera is legendary and was a fairly new technique at that time, but changed the film industry and was later used in movies like The Shining, Here's Johnny, and Rocky. movie has a ridiculously amazing opening scene that immediately hooks you. I mean, a seemingly short person with a costumed arm grabs a knife out of the kitchen drawer, walks upstairs, finds a clown mask on the floor, walks into a bedroom, and kills the almost nude woman brushing her hair. Her only words before she died were, "Michael!" Next thing you know, the clown mask murderer walks outside, right as a man and a woman pull up in a car. The man takes the mask off of the killer, revealing a young kid, and the two people are the kid's parents. It makes you have to know the rest of the story. From there, you just can't stop watching as the story jumps ahead to the day before Halloween, 15 years later, as you watch Michael, who's now 21, escape from the mental institution he's been in since his killing days in Haddonfield, Illinois, at 6 years old. And then Jamieleecurtis shows up as her character, Laurie Strode. A little Halloween trivia, her stylish outfit she wore in this movie was a $100 JCPenney outfit. It was such a low-budget movie, $300,000 to be exact, that a lot of the actors wore their own clothes. I will say, though, that those bell-bottom jeans that Jamie Lee is wearing in this movie are fantastic. I've always loved them, and I've always been a fan of bell-bottoms, whether they were in style or not. But her outfit in this movie is where my love of bell-bottoms began. But as the movie goes on, you really have no idea why Michael is after Laurie. All you come to know is that the woman that was murdered in the first scene is the sister of Michael Myers, and he's the young boy. And the kicker that you don't actually find out until the sequel, Halloween 2, is that Laurie is also his sister, and he wants her dead too. As a matter of fact, he'll do just about anything to make sure that happens, as long as it's on, you guessed it, Halloween. Now, this movie wasn't originally meant to be a franchise. Two amazing filmmakers who were dating at the time, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, wanted to make a movie about a murderer who stalked babysitters. That's all. And who wouldn't love that? I mean, every young girl babysits at some point in her life. It's almost like a rite of passage. But that's what Laurie is actually doing in the movie when Michael begins his killing spree in Haddonfield. And trust me when I say that every babysitter in the late 70s, and probably even today, think about Michael Myers. The original had phenomenal success as a small budget independent film and went on to include 12 other Halloween films. Everybody loves Michael.
After all these years, what do you think possessed Michael to go on this killing spree?
You don't believe he's a boogeyman?
No.
Well, you should.
Oh, Danny, you wicked genius. And I can't forget the amazing director David-Gordongreen. Together, these two men created a masterpiece. In 2018, horror fans were treated to a thrilling return of one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time with the release of Halloween. This film serves as a direct sequel to John Carpenter's original 1978 classic, disregarding all previous sequels and reboots. I thought this was an interesting choice, ignoring so many amazing Halloween films. I mean, the first sequel to the original set in one of the scariest places ever, a hospital where Laurie dies. That's right, she dies. But then Halloween H2O comes out in 1998 for the 20th anniversary, and you find out that she faked her death. Oh, it was so great. That film has Josh Hartnett, Michelle Williams, LL Cool J, and of course Jamieleecurtis. But in the end, I considered that choice to ignore those other amazing films as a bold choice, and overall, I think it was a successful move. Anyway, set 40 years after the events of the first film, Halloween brings back Jamieleecurtis in her iconic role as Laurie Strode, the sole survivor of Michael Myers' murderous rampage. Now, Laurie is a hardened and paranoid woman living in constant fear of Michael's return and preparing herself for a final confrontation. That does happen again, and just in case you were wondering, he escapes from his home away from home, the mental institution, again.
Look out!
What the hell happened to you?
The film beautifully captures the essence of the original while introducing fresh elements to the story. With a perfect mix of nostalgia and modern sensibilities, Halloween offers a tense and suspenseful experience that keeps everyone on the edge of their seat the whole film. One of the highlights of the film is the portrayal of Laurie Strode. Jamieleecurtis delivers a powerhouse performance showcasing Laurie's resilience, strength, and determination to protect her family at all costs. She's no longer the vulnerable, innocent teenager running from a masked killer. She's now a fierce warrior ready to face her worst nightmare. Of course, we can't forget about Michael Myers himself. Nick Castle returns to don the iconic mask once again, capturing the silent, relentless terror that has made Myers a horror legend. The film expertly balances the mystery and brutality of Michael, creating an atmosphere of dread and unpredictability. If we're really ignoring every sequel, the 1978 kills versus the 2018 kills are not equal. You absolutely cannot predict what Michael is going to do to these people. And let me just say, the script successfully blends horror and humor, providing well-timed moments of levity that alleviate the tension without detracting from the overall suspenseful atmosphere. I'm sure that's Danny's influence on the film. I mean, who else would give each or most of the weak victims in a slasher film their own comedic pre-death scene? Like the dumb true crime podcasters who think taunting Michael will get them what they need for their podcast. I enjoy the comedy to say the least. Now, moving on. The dialogue is sharp, the pacing is tight, and the kills are gruesome, catering to both fans of the original and newcomers to the Halloween movies. It is definitely a worthy addition to the beloved franchise. It honors the spirit of the original while carving its own path, delivering a thrilling, intense, and satisfying horror experience. With a phenomenal performance from Jamieleecurtis, impeccable writing and directing from Danny and David, and a genuine love for the source material, this film is a must-watch for horror enthusiasts and fans of the Halloween series. Now, let's talk about Halloween kills.
It's over.
We can't hurt anyone ever again.
No one told you.
Told me what?
Michael Myers is alive.
Danny and his sidekick David once again take the blood-soaked baton and run with it, delivering a sequel that's as thrilling as it is amusing. By the way, Michael Myers has never looked sexier. Yes, I said it, and I know he's old now, like 61 years old, but I don't care. The way they balance the scares and the laughs in this one, though, we kind of feel like we're on a roller coaster, not knowing whether to laugh or cry or scream or maybe even hide our face. Michael is still on the hunt for Laurie in this one, but so is the audience, kind of. She's barely in the movie, but that doesn't mean that it isn't another amazing Halloween movie. Although he doesn't find Laurie, he makes his way through Haddonfield one creative murder at a time, looking for her, and does manage to find her daughter, and, well, that'll have to tide him over until Halloween ends. I did think it was cool that the original Lindsay, Kyle Richards, was in the movie. Laurie babysat her along with Tommy Doyle in the 1978 film. The original Tommy wasn't in the film, although the role of Tommy has been played by some pretty cool celebrities throughout the years, like Paul Rudd, Skylar Gisondo, and in Kills, he was played by Anthony Michael Hall. Yes, the 80s heartthrob from The Breakfast Club and 16 Candles. Now, my favorite part, a few glimpses of Danny's comedic personality. How about Big John and Little John?
Big John?
Yes, Little John.
Someone's in our house.
They're a super sweet gay couple who live in the original Myers house, and you love them in the movie. Great characters, but no one else could have come up with those names other than Danny. And if I'm wrong about that, I don't think that I am, but if I am, I'd love to know who named those guys, because it's so perfect. And what about the most annoying chant in any movie ever made?
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight. It's hilarious and cheesy, but I loved it. And I loved this movie. Let's move on to the last in the trilogy, Halloween Ends.
It's been 4 years since Michael Myers vanished without a trace.
Oh, Danny, you tease. We're on the edge of our seats waiting to see how you wrap up this seductively terrifying trilogy. The anticipation is exhilarating and torturous almost. You go in knowing Michael is old, so we're all wondering the same thing. Is he still going to be able to outwalk everyone? I mean, yes, his walk has and always will be faster than your sprint. And will he be able to overpower full-grown men? What do we do about that? New recruit! Brilliant! This movie is charming in a cockeyed sort of way. We all love an underdog, and Corey is the perfect vulnerable character we needed in this story. Just when you think he's making progress and has hitched his wagon to our favorite Halloween veterans,
Well, someone's getting into the spirit of things.
the movie takes a turn and we end up watching Michael take on a Mr. Miyagi type role. Although there are no crane kicks in Halloween Ends, we do get to watch Michael pass the torch. An interesting and unique move for a slasher film. Thanks, Danny and David. Although I don't see as much humor in Ends, I do love a well thought out kill, and there are plenty of them in this movie. We get to root on the villain a lot, which is that cockeyed part I was talking about. The clever writing makes us despise some of the victims.
I know who you are.
You did something messy.
I can't believe they let you off.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You're that psycho babysitter.
He killed that kid, didn't he?
Yep. Kid hard, that's right. Right. So where's your next victim?
So we actually don't mind seeing them become, well, victims. In the end, spoiler alert, Michael meets his demise after 40 years of watching him do his thing on the big screen. I was actually sad at the end, but I noticed one little thing that gave me hope: an open door at Laurie's house. I guess we'll have to see if it continues. These 3 films, these devilishly delightful creations, showcase so much exceptional talent. And then Danny, he's like the master of horror foreplay, teasing us with scares and then tickling us with laughter. The way he weaves together comedy and horror is a true gift to our wicked souls. So, my delectable viewers, tune in next time to be seduced, tantalized, and entertained with another episode of the Blair Scares Horror Show with me, Blair Scares, where I promise to always be your favorite dream and your worst nightmare. Oh, and speaking of nightmares, well, you'll just have to tune in next time to see. Sweet dreams. Freddy says hi.